My mom doesn't love me. I always thought it was because she was too busy with work and didn't know how to express her feelings, which is why she seemed so indifferent towards me. However, when I had no money for hospitalization and called her, she was excitedly preparing a birthday banquet for my 18-year-old cousin. On the phone, I begged her, "I will definitely pay you back. But if I don't have the surgery, I will die." Yet, she coldly lectured me. "Didn't I just give you your allowance for the month? At such a young age, you've already learned to lie. A child who spouts such nonsense might as well be dead." Later, I died in a dark and damp rented room. The mother who had spoken harshly to me all her life turned white-haired overnight. It was a cloudless, beautiful day on my cousin Selena's birthday, as I was clutching the registration form leaving the clinic. Hundreds of messages about the birthday party had already flooded the class group chat. Probably nobody would dislike a girl like Selena, who excelled in studies and had a charming appearance. Compared to her, I felt like a dim, gutter rat, but I really didn't have the time to worry about that now. Since last week, I had begun to vomit blood intermittently, after coming to the hospital for tests. The doctor told me that long-term use of harsh medication had caused my stomach to begin turning cancerous. If I didn't have surgery soon, I might not last even a month. I don't want to die. I still have many dreams unfulfilled, but after transferring all the money in my account to the hospital, it still wasn't enough. After some thought, I called my mom. The phone rang intermittently, and after a long wait, no one answered. As I was about to exit the call screen, a new video suddenly popped up in the class group chat on the home page. In the video, Selena, dressed in an extravagantly expensive gown, was surrounded by people as she cut the first slice of cake, looking every bit the princess, and there, my usually stern, high-ranking executive mother was smiling tenderly and affectionately beside her. As the phone rang and vibrated on the table, she just frowned and deliberately pressed the button to turn off the screen. So, it turns out my mom does know what love is. It just has nothing to do with me. My name is Sunny. Grandma said my mom named me this hoping that I would grow up to be like a little sun, warming everyone around me. But good intentions aren't supposed to be like this. She never loved me. The one truly cherished in her heart was always my cousin Selena. Selena's parents died early, and feeling pity for her young, orphaned cousin, my mom took her in and treated her as her own daughter. When we were little, Selena was greedy and secretly took money from a drawer to buy cookies. When my mom found out, she dragged me out of my room without asking any questions. She whipped me with a thick vine until my skin burst open, and I kept crying and trying to explain to her over and over. But my mom just looked at me coldly. "Would a sensible child like Selena steal money? Still lying through your teeth now, just like your father." The cold autumn night was shockingly chilly, and the cold from the ceramic tiles seeped into my bones, causing them pain. I lay dying on the ground, and in the living room, my mom was tenderly serving food to Selena. Her bowl always had the spare ribs and eggs that my mom was reluctant to buy more of, and it also contained all of my mom's love. Outside the window, lights shone brightly, and they cuddled together like a true mother and daughter. At that moment, I suddenly realized, in fact, the one without a mother was me. Returning from the hospital, my body still ached. I had run out of money in my pockets and couldn't afford painkillers, so I had to force myself to fall into a stuporous sleep. In a daze, I heard the sound of keys turning in the lock outside the door. Opening my eyes, there stood my mom on the porch, her face frosty, coldly staring at me lying on the sofa. "Why didn't you come to Selena's birthday party?" she started speaking, her tone laced with annoyance. "You know very well that your sister's university recommendation is about to be confirmed. By not showing up, are you trying to stir up rumors of a rift between you two and embarrass your sister? You're always neglecting your duties and leading a dissolute life, and now you even want to drag your sister down with you." As she spoke more agitatedly, the initial joy I felt upon seeing her froze like a cold shower, solidifying my blood. How naive I was to think she came out of concern for me. My head felt even more dizzy now. Looking down, I quietly asked her, "Mom, could you lend me 30,000 yuan? I had calculated the bills, subtracting the living expenses I earned from part-time jobs and various subsidies reduced by the school's health insurance. Just 30,000 yuan, and I could undergo the surgery." The noise around me abruptly stopped, only to be replaced by my mother's voice, no longer able to contain her anger. 30,000 yuan. Sunny, you've really gotten bold. Isn't 500 yuan enough for a high schooler like you? Now you dare to ask for so much. 500 yuan, I almost laughed out loud. Who would have thought? My mother, dazzling in her appearance and capable of ordering million-dollar dresses for her niece, only gave me a mere 500 yuan a month. In this era of soaring prices, 500 yuan only ever brought me the cold shower in the bathroom, meals without a trace of oil, and repeatedly patched up sneakers. No one wanted to be my friend. They all said I had a faint bad smell. Eventually, I was forced to move out of the dormitory due to ostracism and barely managed to rent this cramped, narrow room with my endless part-time jobs, but I didn't want to explain to her anymore. All I knew was that my mother, now a high executive in a listed company earning millions a year, was the only person around who could easily lend me 30,000 yuan. I didn't need her love. I just needed her to give me a chance to live. I'm sick. I heard my own voice strain as it came out. I'll pay you back. But if I don't have the surgery, I'll die. My mother paused, looking at me directly for the first time since she entered the room. I knew how I must look to her now, lips so pale they lacked any hint of blood, my hair a disheveled mess tucked behind my ears. Her gaze flickered, as if she wanted to say something, but then her handbag vibrated abruptly. The buzzing sound piercingly loud in the empty room. Auntie, someone hit me at the hotel. My face is covered in blood. WHWH, where are you? Auntie, it hurts so much, I can barely stand it. Selena's fragile cries, like a kitten's, came through the phone. My mother's face changed instantly. Selena, don't be scared, just wait a few more minutes. Your auntie is coming right over. She pushed the door open, hurrying to leave, suppressing the turmoil in my stomach. I panicked and tried to get off the couch to grab my mother's clothes. But my outstretched hand was harshly slapped away, and I fell hard to the floor. Don't touch me. My mother stood in the doorway, looking down at me with tears about to fall from the pain, her eyes filled with nothing but disgust. At this moment, you still want to stop me from seeing your injured sister, a selfish, nonsensical child like you. If you died, you died. That night, as I slept, I had a dream. I dreamed of a time long, long ago, before Selena came to our house. Back then, right after the divorce, my mother, with me as her burden, struggled to find a job in the city. Though life was tough, I felt it was the happiest time of my life. My health was always poor. When I was 6, I had a high fever and babbled all night. My mother, who was always cold, gave me the best quilt in the house and sat by my bedside all night. Then, as all elementary school essays seemed to narrate, a sudden downpour made my already severe fever worse. My mother always protected me, braving the heavy rain to take me to the hospital. She said, "Sonny, all I want is for you to grow up healthy and happy." But then, Selena arrived. Mom told me, Selena's parents are gone, and she has no one to look after her. As her older sister, you must be accommodating to her. So, I did as she said. I gave Selena the toys she wanted. I never defended myself when she blamed me for things I didn't do. Gradually, my voluntary concessions became taken for granted, despite being the older sister. I had to wear the clothes Selena outgrew. Although I wasn't to blame, I was the first to be accused. Even though I am her daughter, it was Selena who moved into the new house with Mom, while I was sent to boarding school. When I finally gathered the courage to cry and tell my mom about the unfairness, she just looked at me coldly. When did you start framing your own sister? Maybe I've been too generous with your allowance, giving you room for such crooked thoughts. Thus, she began to cut my allowance, claiming that only a strict upbringing could refine my character. On nights I lay awake from hunger, she was out with Selena at high society gatherings, enjoying fine dining. She had once clearly expressed her wish for me to grow up healthy and happy, but now, I am neither healthy nor happy. Sometimes, I wonder, if she knew about the tormented, battered state I'm in, would she feel a bit of regret? My illness is getting worse. In the mornings, I start to bleed from the nose for no apparent reason. I know this is a precursor to cancer spreading. I'm about to die, hanging on by the last thread. I wonder if, when I die in front of the mother I love the most, she might feel a bit of regret for not loving me a little more while I was alive. My hair began to fall out in large clumps, and initially, I swept up the fallen strands daily in my rented room. As the shedding accelerated, I resorted to wearing a hat to school. The teacher repeatedly frowned at my hat during class and specifically asked me to remove it in the classroom. I ignored her requests. However, during a break, a girl sitting behind me, who was a close friend of Selena, seized the opportunity amidst the chaos to yank off my hat. They assumed I wore the hat as a form of rebellion or to conceal prohibited electronic devices, but when the hat came off, all they saw was my bald head and my pale face, the veins nearly visible beneath the skin. The girl behind me paused, then burst into laughter. "Sonny, what kind of look is this, cosplaying as Thanos?" she jeered. Her comment triggered laughter all around. At this elite high school, no one would have guessed that my appearance was due to malnutrition linked to stomach cancer, nor could they imagine I was quietly waiting to die here because I couldn't afford treatment. Only the class president, Sally, emerged from the crowd to pick up my hat. She was the only one who stood by me. "Selena, that's too much," she exclaimed as she carefully placed the hat back on my head, glaring at the gloating Selena from behind the crowd. "Have you not had enough from the slap I gave you at the hotel last time? Is it fun to resort to such low tactics?" Only then did I realize that Selena's crying over the phone that night was because of Sally. She had spread rumors about me being cold and rude for deliberately missing her 18th birthday party. When Sally, who knew I was at the hospital, heard this, she slapped Selena on the spot. "Sally, are you Sonny's dog, defending her like this, pointed at and insulted like this?" Selena's face fell, and she retorted angrily, "What if I did all these? She looks so disgusting. Targeting her is already giving her face." Saying this, she grabbed a dark-colored clay doll from my desk and mockingly threw it to the ground. With a crack, the last thread in my mind snapped. I knew I must look terrible due to the illness, but that clay doll, the only thing my mother bought for me when she picked me up from school, was very special. She had said its round face resembled mine, pretty and adorable, and that it could keep me company in her stead. For the first time, I stood up and lunged at Selena. Once, twice, 3 times, I heard Selena's frantic screams and the whoosh of my fists, blurred by rage. I smelled blood and felt a sharp pain in my lower abdomen. As I was pulled away, I heard someone shouting from the back door, "Make way! Her mother is here." I was forcibly taken to the office. Classmates said I had gone mad, attacking a peer in front of everyone. Selena said the same, in front of the teachers and my mother. She shed her arrogant demeanor and kept apologizing to me. "Sister, it's all my fault. I was just upset about Sally hitting me under your instruction, and I accidentally broke your clay doll. I didn't realize your emotions would flare up so violently. My hands and face are all bruised. Auntie, don't worry. I'm not hurt at all. It's only right for sister to take her anger out on me." With her lips trembling and tears sparkling in her eyes, she looked at my mother. I opened my mouth to say something, but just then, my mother suddenly grabbed the documents on the table. She slapped me harshly. "Apologize." Her gaze was cold and indifferent, as if she were judging a stranger with whom she shared no blood relation. The documents on the table were not properly stapled, and a staple from the upright stapler grazed my right cheek, leaving a long trail of blood. Her force was strong, nearly deafening my right ear. I staggered in place, yet no one came to help me. I suddenly felt like crying. It was the class teacher who had summoned her, my own mother, yet why wouldn't my mother listen to even a single word of my defense? I watched as she carefully pulled out a handkerchief from her bag and meticulously wiped away a barely noticeable scratch on Selena's forehead. The handkerchief was embroidered with a small begonia flower. Because my mom disliked the rough texture of paper, I spent several nights on her 40th birthday embroidering a real silk handkerchief with silk thread for her. My embroidery skills were poor, and my hands were often pricked bloody by the needle, but when my mom first saw the gift and smiled at me so tenderly, I felt it was all worth it. Now, the cherished handkerchief was being crumpled carelessly, smeared with blotchy stains of snot and tears, and eventually thrown on the ground with disgust. I suddenly felt a pang of regret. I used to think that if I were just a bit more obedient, my mom would eventually see Selena's true face and recognize my goodness. But I was dying. I could no longer wait for my mom's love. If that was the case, why should I continue playing the fool, willingly taking the blame for others? "I will not apologize." Leaning on the desk, I slowly straightened my stooped back. The burning sensation in my stomach and esophagus made my head spin, but I stubbornly raised my head and looked into my mom's eyes. Word by word, every parent who comes here, right or wrong, their first reaction is to ask to see the surveillance footage. But you, when summoned by the teacher, chose to slap me hard with the documents on the table. Mom, does it not matter to you whether I am wronged or not? Is the truth of the matter not important to you? Is the only thing that matters to you the perception of fairness and justice as an ant in the eyes of others? No, it's not. My mom's face turned pale, and she stammered, unable to defend herself. In those 3 seconds of her hesitation, I felt I already knew the answer. Selena's expression began to show panic, as if she feared I would suddenly expose all her deeds, but I did nothing except smile, picked up the dirty handkerchief from the ground, and walked out of the office, just like many years ago when I quietly came into this world. This time, I would not return. I slept through the afternoon in bed. When I woke up, bright red blood dripped onto the white sheets, and I grimaced in pain, lacking even the strength to reach for a tissue, but I eventually got up. I didn't want to die in the rental room. The landlady was kind to me, and dying there would make it difficult for her to rent out the space again. I went downstairs and borrowed a large cardboard box, sold all my belongings to the lady at the recycling station. She congratulated me, thinking I had made some money to live a better life. I didn't say anything, just smiled, and with the money from the recycled goods, I went to KFC. It was Thursday, and there were many parents with children at KFC. I bought the simplest meal at the counter, sat by the window, and ate while watching. I could hardly eat anymore. Each bite of bread felt like sharp needles scraping my throat, but I kept eating, my eyes reddened from a sharp, stinging pain. Next to me was a little girl with big eyes, who kept watching me. I'm not sure what she told her mom, but after a while, a strawberry sundae was passed to our table. Big sister, I'm giving you my favorite strawberry sundae so you won't be sad anymore. My mom says she's a superhero. She can solve all my troubles. You can go to your mom too. The little girl gave me a smile, then quickly ran off. Looking at the strawberry sundae on the table, I suddenly remembered many years ago, when my mom took me and Selena to KFC. That day, Selena was fussing over wanting a sundae. My mom went to the counter and bought 2 mango-flavored sundaes. When she came back, she happily told Selena, "Selena, your aunt knows your favorite is mango sundae." I didn't buy the wrong one, did I? She was right, but amidst Selena's jubilant cheers, she forgot that I was allergic to mango. Her attempt to treat us equally was a swollen, itchy nightmare in my childhood memories. This was the first time I had gotten my favorite flavor. When I left KFC, it was completely dark outside. My phone was full of messages from my mom, mostly curses. "Sonny, do you even care at all? I raised you all by myself, and you dare to give me attitude in the office today. I saw the surveillance footage. What's with your hair? It's not wrong for your classmates to provoke you, always dressing so differently, influenced by those wild kids from the countryside. I'll fix that when you get home. There was a bit of an issue with your sister too. I've spoken to her already. Tomorrow, you both apologize to each other and let's put this behind us. Don't make a big deal out of it." Overwhelmed by the barrage of messages, I simply turned off my phone. I wandered aimlessly through the streets, and as I passed a stone bridge, I suddenly remembered the handkerchief from the office that I hadn't cleaned properly. It was the last thing I owned, and I wanted it to be clean. Later, I went down to the small river under the bridge to wash it, but the embankment was so high, it took all my strength to reach out. The river water was cold, and my already burning stomach began to hurt more, itching up my throat. In a daze, I felt something about to surge out of my throat. "What are you doing?" Suddenly, a flashlight shone from the bridge. Startled, I spat out a mouthful of blood, and as I did, the handkerchief floated downstream. Instinctively, I jumped in after it. Noise erupted from the bridge, and I saw several figures scrambling down. The delayed pain numbed my limbs. I hadn't planned to die here, but as fatigue overcame me, the current slowly pulled me under, like returning to a familiar embrace. I thought, perhaps this time I really was leaving. I closed my eyes, pretending to drift into a dream. When I was pulled from the water, I was thoroughly chilled to the bone. The patrol team initially thought I was a fisherman poaching at night. By the time they realized something was wrong and emergency rescue was needed, it was too late. They found my ID in my pocket and called my mom to collect my body. When my mom received the call, she was stunned for a few seconds. Her first thought being that someone was playing a cruel prank. She sent me a message, her voice stern and merciless. "Sonny, do you still think you're a child? How old are you to still be playing dead as a prank? I must say, your trick worked pretty well. Your grandparents heard the news and pleaded with me, and gave Selena a harsh scolding. Are you satisfied now? She angrily exited the chat, but as the phone screen went dark, she suddenly sensed something was amiss. I knew she had trouble sleeping, and no matter how strained our relationship was, I would always remind her to drink a glass of milk before bed, but the latest message stopped abruptly on the day I walked out the door. Never before had she attempted to make amends in such a lowered tone without me ignoring her. Her face turned a shade paler, and faintly, she seemed to entertain some grim suspicions, yet she still couldn't believe it, so she drove to my rental room, after falling ill. My memory often faltered, so I had gotten into the habit of burying a spare key in the flower bed by the window, but this time, my mom searched for a long time and couldn't find it in the flower bed. She was getting angry. Sonny, this prank has gone far enough. I've given you an out, don't be ungrateful. She banged forcefully on the door frame, but the door was not opened by me, but by a rough-looking burly man. Seeing the man, my mom seemed to breathe a slight sigh of relief, but then her expression grew even more troubled. So this is why the brat isn't returning messages or answering calls, messing around outside, huh? Thinking about men before even being of age, just as lowly as her father. She lifted her head and stormed forward with great fury, but was stopped after just a step. Hey, what do you mean by barging into someone's home without so much as a hello? What do you mean barging? I'm Sonny's mom, can't I enter her house? You seducing a minor, I should be the least of your worries. Why are you blocking my way? The burly man finally lost his patience. What's Sonny? I don't know any Sonny. If you're looking for someone, go outside. I just rented this place this week. What are you raving about? My mom finally froze. What do you mean? Sonny moved out. At the junkyard downstairs, my mom saw the luggage I had sold off. Inside was a blood-stained sheet, several washed-out clothes, and a diary containing a critical illness notice. These items, which she would have regarded as trash and never touched before, were now undeniably linked to her daughter. The junkyard lady told her, Sonny was hard-working. Her family wasn't wealthy. But she never complained or said she was tired. Her family didn't treat her very well, and the neighborhood kids would taunt her as an orphan. She was also poor, often picking up leftover mineral water bottles nearby to sell. But Sonny told us, she wanted to be a doctor someday. She said doctors can help a lot of people, and having received much help herself, she also wanted to become such a person. My mom's hand, hanging by her side, began to tremble slightly. She suddenly realized. It seems I never truly understood my daughter. In my eyes, Sonny was an uneducated and envious girl. It's not that I didn't love her, but after the divorce and with my busy job, plus the arrival of Selena, I was stretched too thin. But I had never imagined that I had misunderstood my daughter for so many years. Ma'am, you must be a relative of Sonny's family, said the scrap collector as she patted my trembling shoulders. Sonny is truly an exceptional girl. If you could see her family, please ask them to treat her a bit better. My mother bought my pile of scrap for 1,000 yuan. Holding that box, she still went to the police station. By this point, the outcome was clear, yet, the moment she stepped into the morgue, she hesitated. Strangely, the woman who never flinched at handling billion-dollar deals in the business world couldn't bring herself to lift the white cloth covering the body. The morgue was silent. The only sound my mother could hear was her own heart thumping loudly, but when she lifted the cloth and saw the frostbitten purple face, her first instinct was to run away. This can't be Sonny. Before her was a face so gaunt it nearly revealed the bones beneath, with emaciated, yellowish elbows, the body thin as if merely stretched skin over a shadow puppet. My mother was scared. At this point, she even hesitated to acknowledge it. No, this can't be Sonny. Sonny has always had a big appetite. Whenever I took her and her sister to KFC, she would polish off all the leftover burgers on the table. She muttered to herself as if to muster courage, or as if trying repeatedly to find a reason to keep living. She rarely appeared so helpless in front of others, but the police ruthlessly shattered all her illusions. Ms. Sarah, through DNA matching and identification from the clothes, we can confirm that this is your daughter, Sonny. An officer pulled out a medical report from a stack of documents. She took it with trembling hands. The documents she usually skimmed through now felt strangely unfamiliar. Gastric atrophic inflammation, atypical hyperplasia, cancer cell metastasis. So, I really was sick. she suddenly remembered that humid afternoon, her daughter weakly lying on the couch, begging her to lend some money. But what had she said then? A child who spouts nonsense like you might as well be dead. The woman who had entered with her makeup perfectly done and dressed impeccably, finally collapsed heavily to the ground. Immense pain seized her, leaving her unable to even scream. She said, "Sonny, Mom really was wrong." When Sarah arrived home, it was already pitch dark. She pushed open the door of her spacious downtown apartment, only to find the inside as eerily silent and dark as the world outside. She suddenly remembered that every time she visited my rental, no matter how late it was, there was always a night light waiting for her in the living room. The person coming home at night, if there isn't even a single light on, would surely lose their way, she recalled me saying with hopeful expectation. But now, the person who used to wait up for her with the light on was no longer there. In the neighboring bedroom, Selena was already fast asleep. Sarah didn't turn on the lights or disturb anyone. She simply sat quietly on the sofa, pulling out her phone. She opened a surveillance video that she had never thought to download before. Her daughter was sitting at the back of the class, awkwardly standing among a group of vibrant classmates like an outsider. She had no desk partner, and her pale blue uniform seemed to fade into a dull, whitish gray. Then, when class ended, the student sitting behind her suddenly snatched her hat off. They tossed her hat around, eliciting a chorus of snickering laughter. Sarah heard her own beloved niece maliciously tugging at the edge of the hat from behind the crowd. "That little wretch really knows how to play the victim, shaving her head like that. I wonder who she's trying to pity." "Don't hold back. My aunt is so naive. Even if you cripple her, as long as I speak up, she won't pursue it." Sarah's hand trembled as she pressed the play button. She could hardly believe it. All this time, she had thought her daughter was a troublesome child, because every time there was trouble, it was always her daughter who stood out. But reality slapped her hard, showing her that she was wrong. The truly wicked one was the niece she had adored for over a decade. The truly helpful and cheerful one was her own daughter, whom she had ignored for so long. She went to Selena's room and turned on the lights. Under the harsh light, Selena, still groggy and not yet speaking, received a fierce slap across her face. Selena, stunned by the slap, looked up to see her aunt, who had always doted on her, standing in the doorway. Tears immediately began to fall. "Aunt, what's wrong? Did Selena do something wrong again?" Her act of feigning innocence was polished. She knew that given her late father's influence, no matter how big her mistakes, her mother would always be lenient. But this time, her mother didn't speak in the usual gentle tone, but stared directly at her. She said, "Sonny is dead." Selena was taken aback. My mother's gaze held a trace of helplessness and complexity as she said, "What did our family ever do to wrong you?" At this point, Selena realized everything, no longer putting on her usual innocent and pitiful act. She defiantly said, "Wrong me? Your family wronged me in every possible way. If it weren't for Grandpa's soft heart in giving the family store to you, how could my father have died while doing business abroad? I was supposed to be a rich heiress. It was all of you who stole my identity. Besides, no matter how nice you appear to me, you and Sonny are always closer. No matter how much you pretend, you always favored her in the end." She yelled hysterically at my mother. My mother was bewildered. She never imagined her niece had always seen her this way. Indeed, when her father died, he had left the family store to her. But that was because Selena's father had bigger ambitions and looked down on the small shop. In the end, it turned out she had raised an enemy. "The lawyer has already prepared the lawsuit for school bullying. After tonight, you and I will have nothing to do with each other." My mother stood there, numb, like a statue, declaring her final decision. Yet, Selena suddenly smiled. "Blame all the crimes on me, and you might feel better, Sarah. Have you ever considered that you were the last straw that killed Sonny?" A month after I died, Selena was sent to prison for school bullying. My mother sold the spacious flat in the city center and moved into the rundown 2-block building where I once lived. This place hardly ever saw sunlight. It leaked when it rained, and it didn't even have an exhaust fan, which is common nowadays. Every time cooking was done, the entire house would fill with the smoke from the oil. But Sarah still moved in here. She washed the sheets I had used and spread them out again. The school uniform I had worn was hung back in the closet. She tried hard to restore the place to how it had been when I was there, but frighteningly, she found that her memories of her daughter were fading. She began to forget what she looked like. her favorite food, and eventually, even the voice she pleaded in her dreams disappeared. She frantically started searching for traces of me. But in the thousands of family photos in her phone, Selena always stood in the center. All that was left of me was a blurred profile at the edge of the screen. Later, she heard that when I died, I had been picking up a dirty handkerchief, so she practically bought off all the residents along the river and rummaged through the city's trash cans, just to find that gift she had once ignored. But the river was so brisk, and the handkerchief had long since floated far away, having found nothing. Her mind finally began to blur. At first, she just cooked various dishes daily in the two-block building. The aroma of cooking occasionally attracted nearby tourists, but whenever someone knocked, she would look hopeful, only to turn cold when she saw the visitor's face. "I'm not selling, these are all for my Sunny, you know Sunny, right? My daughter, so sweet and sensible. She's been sick recently, become so thin. I need to make her some good food to help her recover." People around said she was crazy, but she paid no heed, just repeating the same actions day after day. Later, she started waiting for people at the entrance of my high school. She had never picked me up and naturally did not know the school hours, so every day, she waited from dawn till dusk with her lunchbox, only to sadly pack up her full lunchbox. "She's just angry with me. It will be better in a few days." She said this every day, continuing to stand at the school gates come rain or shine. One day after school, a child who had a mango-flavored lollipop and had an allergic reaction was carried out by their parent. She watched for a long time, then suddenly covered her face, and large tears fell onto the lunchbox. "I guess I never really knew what she liked." She squatted on the ground and cried like a child. Another tragedy occurred by the river in City A. This time, a woman named Sarah was pulled from the water. When she died, her hands were still tightly clutching a cracked clay doll. She was forever trapped in that rainy season. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.